नाड्यो अस्य निर्भिद्यन्त ताभ्यो लोहिता मृतं नद्यस्ततः संभवन् उदरं निर्विदयत। नाड्य अस्य निर्विदन्त ताभ्यो लोहितमाभृतं नद्यस्ततः संभवन् उदरं निर्विद्यत। नाड्यस्य निर्विद्यन्त ताभ्यो लोहितमाभृतं नद्यस्ततः संभवन् उदरं निर्विद्यत। नाड्यस्य निर्विद्यन्त ताभ्यो लोहितमाभृतं नद्यस्ततः संभवन् उदरं निर्विद्यत। Synonyms, translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nadya, the veins, asya, of the universal form, nirvidyanta, became manifested, tabhya, from them, lohitam, blood, abhritam, was produced, nadya, the rivers, tata, from that, sambhavan, appeared, udaram, the stomach, nirvidyata, became manifested. Translation: the veins of the universal body became manifested, and thereafter the red corpuscles or blood. In their wake came the rivers, the deities presiding over the veins, and then appeared an abdomen. Purport. Blood veins are compared to rivers. When the veins were manifested in the universal form, the rivers in the various planets were also manifested. The controlling deity of the rivers is also the controlling deity of the nervous system. In Ayurvedic treatment, those who are suffering from the disease of nervous instability are recommended to take a bath by dipping into a flowing river. Chant the pranam mantra. Mangalacharan. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Namam Vishnupadaya Krishnapristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamine. Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschyat Desha Tarine Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Dutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamsya He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Shri Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpataru Veshya Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So we are reading discussion, wonderful discussion between Mother Devahuti and her son Lord Kapila. Lord Kapila is describing the Sankhya philosophy, the analytical study of the realization of Godhead. This is another branch of Bhakti Yoga, that how we can understand or attain the Supreme Lord by the analytical study. So far we have studied in this chapter that creation which has happened in the starting by the impetus from Karano Dakshaya Vishnu. So we have seen at the beginning there is Pradhana, and it has all the ingredients of the creation already present. All the souls are also there present, but they're in a dormant stage, and nothing is happening. It's just like sleep, in a deep sleep, in a these things are just lying inert. But with the glance of Karano Dakshaya Vishnu, who is lying in the causal ocean, the Mahat Tattva, Pradhana is agitated, becomes Mahat Tattva, and then creation begins. So now we see that there is different stages of creation which is happening. First happens at the stage of Karano Dakshaya Vishnu, who puts his glance on this Pradhana, and with the churning rod of the time and the material gunas, this creation is happening. And the main elements of earth, water, fire, ether, air is created. Now, after that, then we see that Karano Dakshaya Vishnu enters into a bubble, which is the universal egg, in the form of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, which is lying in the Garbhodak ocean, and the Garbhodakshaya Vishnu who lies into the Garbhodak ocean, but the bubble is actually into the Karnarnak ocean, or Karnarnava. And now the second level of manifestation or the creation begins. Now this second level is happening at the stage of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. Okay. So when Garbhodakshaya Vishnu enters into Karnodakshaya Vishnu in the form of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu enters into this universe, he also expands into Virat Rupa. And Virat Rupa is the form of the Lord in which these 14 planetary systems are present or lying. So we have seen that in the second canto, or even in Srimad Bhagavad Gita, when Srila Prabhupada is describing the Virat Rupa, he describes that this Virat Rupa is actually an imaginary form of the Lord, or is a temporary form of the Lord, or is a form of the Lord for impersonalists. Okay? But here in the third canto, Srila Prabhupada is actually describing it as incarnation of the Lord. In the in the 52nd verse of this chapter, he describes Virat Rupa or Virat Purusha as the incarnation of the Supreme Lord. Okay. Now, how do we understand this part? So, Srila Prabhupada further describes that we can think of Virat Rupa as uh, the subtle body. Just like we as human, we have a gross body and we have a subtle body. Our gross body is things which we can see: this hand, head, hair, nose, mouth. All these are uh, gross forms of the body. And then the subtle form of the body is mind, intelligence, false ego. And then beyond that is, you know, so that form of Virat Rupa is to be understood as that it is the subtle, uh, body. Okay. Now we, and just like a subtle body has a gross body, this universe is to be understood as that is the gross representation of that universal form or the universal body. Now there is another consideration then. What about this aspect that this is not the true form of the body? So Srila Prabhupada also explains that just like the Archa Vigraha form of the body is actually appearance of the Lord, so that the neophytes or the devotees can actually serve. And that's why it is non-different than the form of the Lord. But at the same time, it is actually something which is created. Okay. So and then is temporary or is not. There is it's coming from Krishna, its appearance, manifestation of the form of the Lord, but its purpose is for the so that devotees can serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead, so that devotees can focus on the form of the Lord. So similarly, the Virat Rupa form of the Lord is for the impersonalists, so that they can see the presence of the Lord in each and everything. We see here in this particular verse, the appearance of the rivers is being described, and that is happening in the form of the Virat Rupa. So whenever what does that mean is, whenever we see the appearance, whenever we see a river, it should remind us about the veins of the Lord, nervous system of the Lord, and from there, the presence of the Lord, and then from there, the a cause of everything, which is Supreme Personality of God, Krishna. So that is to be understood. Now, moving on to the next part of it. So in this particular chapter, it goes on and then describes the presence of various other gross forms, and then the subtle form. Gross forms being all these different indriyas, different sense organs, and then the presiding deities of those and then moves on to the subtle form of those. Now the subtle forms being mind, intelligence, false ego, and consciousness. Yeah. And then there are presiding deities even for those. Actually, Devkinath Prabhuji shared this wonderful slide where, it's very nicely, mapped all the different organs and their presiding deities, and all the different senses, and then forms of the body, including the subtle and the gross. And at the end of the chapter, then Kapila Muni, Lord Kapila, he describes that this form of this Virat Rupa form of the Lord is actually sleeping or unconscious. And hence the creation is not happening. So these different demigods who have or the presiding deities of the different parts, they try to wake up this Virat Rupa form of the Lord, and they enter through different sense organs one after the another. For example, the presiding deity of the mouth is fire, Agni Dev, and then he enters through the mouth, and then henceforward. And then the subtle form of the presiding deities of the subtle form, like for the mind, the moon god, he enters. For the intelligence, Lord Brahma enters. For false ego, Lord Shiva enters, and none of them entering are able to wake up this Virat Rupa form. And then ultimately, the super soul, that is, Krishna, or the Vishnu, who enters into this Virat Rupa form, who is the presiding deity of the consciousness, and is able to wake up the Virat Rupa. So from there, we can understand that just like when we are sleeping, we can be awakened from the sleep only by the permission of the super soul. If super soul doesn't give the permission for us to wake up, then we will not be able to awake. Actually, it is described here. I'll read it from the section. When a man is sleeping, all his material assets, namely the vital energy, the senses for recording knowledge, the senses for working, as Gyanendriya and Karmendriya, and the mind and intelligence cannot arouse him. He can be aroused only when the super soul helps him. So just like there is permission required from the super soul for us to awake from our sleep. Similarly, for the Virat Rupa, is the super soul intervention or the appearance is required for it to awake and continue the further part of it. So the lesson learned from there is that we need to build our connection with the super soul. If we want to be awake. Now, as we can see that the consciousness right here is actually coming after the false ego. So we'll see actually that comes later in the later verses. That first the mind, that's and then the moon god, then the intelligence and the Lord Brahma, and then the false ego and the presiding deity, Lord Shiva. So they appear, and then appears the consciousness. So as we have seen in this chapter, that something which appears after has the characteristics of the previous ones, or is contaminated by the previous ones. For example, uh, when we saw that the sound, or the ether, from there there was sound, and then appeared fire which had the form, it also had sound. And then from there came the water which has rasa, but it also has form and then the sound. So similarly, the things which are appearing after the previous ones have the contamination of the previous ones. So just like that, in this sequence of appearance, we see that false ego is appearing before the consciousness. So that's why the consciousness is contaminated by the false ego. And hence, this false identification of I am this body, I'm not the soul, I am me, mine, you know, and my, this consciousness is pervading. So we need to wake up from that position of contaminated consciousness. We are sleeping, we are dormant, we don't understand our true position. And we can understand the true position by engaging, by making our connection stronger with Super Soul. And that process is described by Mahaprabhu, that for this particular yuga is the chanting of the holy name of Lord. And by chanting of the holy name, uh, just like uh, just like the dust from, when the dust from mirror is removed, we can see clearly. Similarly, uh, when we chant, the dust from our heart, the contamination is removed, and we are able to perceive the presence of the Lord. We are able to perceive our real identity as the servant of the Supreme Lord, servant of Krishna. So that is what is the described process, that chanting of the holy name, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. That is the only process using which we can be awakened from our sleep, from our ignorance. So I do see that we have few minutes left, but this is what I wanted to share. See if any one of you have any corrections, comments, or any discussions we want to take that.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I'm still confused. Here they are comparing with how the universal form and our body form, they are comparing that together.
Oh, okay. In this particular verse, Mataji?
Yeah, means since we are talking about last 4-5 verse.
Yes. So this, whatever we have, Mataji, is coming from the creation. And right now, whatever is being discussed here is actually, think of it as that these are the ingredients for our creation. The body creation is being created. So we all have veins, but before those veins come to us, the veins appear in the Virat Rupa form. So right now, what is being discussed in last 4-5 verses, in fact, last this entire chapter almost, is that what are those ingredients? For example, at the very beginning of the chapter, we learned that there is sound, and because of the sound, the sense of the hearing, that is ear, is created. And then there is form created, then there is touch sensation created. So all these creations are happening, which are the ingredients. and which are happening at the Virat Rupa form. And then these will think of that these are the blueprints which are being created. Our human form creation is yet to start. That starts at Lord Brahma's level. So what he does is he takes these blueprints and then goes on and then creates the living entities of different forms.
So who is the Virat Purush? It's not a Krishna, it's the Garbhodakshay Vishnu, or who is the Virat Purush?
Yeah. So Virat Purush is a form of Krishna, as we discussed. No, so Srila Prabhupada describes that Virat Rupa is a Purusha form of the Lord, which is more for impersonalists to understand that there is presence of God. So Virat Rupa is Krishna, but how you can see there is a comparison between the deities we have in temple and the Virat Rupa. Does that make sense, Mataji?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Please accept my humble obeisance. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thanks for the class, Prabhu. So, is Virat Roop real or is it just metaphorical, allegorical?
So that's what I was actually trying to address, Prabhuji, that there are two ways in which Srila Prabhupada has described. In the second canto, when he describes, or he describes in Bhagavad Gita, then he tells that Virat Rupa form is more for understanding. It's not real, or it's more for impersonalists to perceive the presence of the Lord. But in this particular chapter, so I'm reading here this. So many of Srila Prabhupada's purports in Canto 2 describe the Virat Rupa or Virat Purusha as imaginary. Yet, in this chapter, he describes it as an incarnation of the Lord. The Lord's relationship with the universal form is similar to the soul's relationship with his subtle body. With Garbhodakshay Vishnu being the soul, the life-giving force of each material universe, and the Virat Rupa being the universal subtle body. Does that make sense, Prabhuji?
Yes, kind of. So when we say the subtle body, Prabhuji, like we have our subtle body of mind, intelligence, ego. So, but here they have given descriptions of the gross body, his veins, his trees, hair.
Yes.
And
So
things
just
like
like Prabhuji, we have subtle body and we have gross body.
Yeah.
So similarly, Virat Rupa, we can think of it as a subtle body, but its gross body is this material creation.
Okay. Okay, Prabhu. Maybe we'll put the further questions in interest of time on Nityam Bhagavad Seva, if that's okay.
Sure, Prabhuji. I'll just read one more paragraph, which is, further describes this part. The Virat Rupa is a blueprint of the universe. As a material manifestation of the Lord, it cannot strictly be called his form because his form is ever spiritual and never material. Nevertheless, the Lord pervades and is non-different from the entire material creation. The subtle material form by which the Lord pervades the universe while displaying everything in universe is called his universal form. So, and then that's where it further describes that just like that, we have this deities which are present, there was a parallel which was drawn that they are non-different than Lord, but at the same time they are not Lord. Not sure if I confused more or I described.
No, it's better, Prabhu, but we'll continue on Bhagavad Sevaya. I got to jump off now.
Sure.
Thanks very much. Hare Krishna.
Over to you, Madhuri Prabhu.
Thank you, Akhilesh Kishore. We'd like to wish everybody a safe and Krishna conscious day ahead. And we'd like to offer our prayers to the Supreme Lord by chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Nrsingo, Jai Nrsingo, Jai Jai Nrsingo, Prahlad, Jaya Padma, Mukha Padma, Pringam, Ugravira
Ugraviram Mahavishnu Parantam Sarotomkham Narsingham Vishnu Bhadram Mukhi Namami.
Nrsingo Bhagwan ki jai,
Ki jai.
Prahlad ki jai.
Jai.
Let's offer our humble obeisances to all the Samar Vaishnavas,
Vanchakalpatra Sindhu Bhaveja
Patitanam Pavanam Vaishnavebhyo Namo
Vaishnavebhyo
Namaha
Namo
ki
Namaha.
jai, Granth Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila
Ki jai.
Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanande.
Ki jai.
Hari
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 Bol.
Hari
Thank you,
Bol.
Akhilesh Krishna.
Thank you everybody. Hari Bol. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.